Hello, everybody. It is myself, Heather Kusiba, and Cassie Webb over in the Mississippi area. Well, I guess I'm in the Seattle area, but we are going to be talking today about an interesting article that Cassie actually pointed out, where they're basically saying sellers are removing their listings rather than keeping them on the market and doing price reductions. And so we figured our markets are just different enough to make this a really interesting topic to talk about. So, Cassie, do you want to start the interestingness of it all? This, we were talking just before we went live. Like, this is something I've had to have a conversation with some listing clients very recently. So it's just kind of fitting that that this is the topic for today.
Yeah, I love these topics that, by the way, this is episode 69. Today is December 2nd, so we're kind of wrapping up the year. And so we've been kind of, talking about some different topics. The thing that I love about topics like this is obviously we're both part of the great United States of America, right? So there's some things that happen on a national level that, I think everybody could agree that there's some uncertainty or changes across the country. And then typically when there's going to be a difference in two different markets, it's a bit different in my market versus yours. So I always love having these conversations and seeing how the markets are reacting. So I think another thing is I already know the answer as it pertains to my market, because these are conversations that I'm having with buyers, sellers, and my agents every day. So, but I did pull some statistics just to verify. I think sometimes we can we have a pulse on the market, right? And so we can kind of feel the temperature of the market, but you always want to also just look at the data and make sure it supports what you're seeing and what you're feeling. So I did that as well. And what I can tell you wholeheartedly, yes, this is happening in our market. Another thing, because we have a lot of military here, and our military tends to leave frequently in a 2 to 3 year time span, which obviously is much more frequent than people may ordinarily own a home, right? So in our particular market, while the prices have over the last 2-3 years, they have inched up, but not enough that it can compensate for closing costs and commissions and different things like that. So what we've had a lot of is people, yes, canceling, delisting, withdrawing, whatever you want to say, rather than reducing the price, maybe because they can't reduce the price. If they don't have a check to write to take to closing, or aren't willing or able to get a loan to come to closing, and or don't want the impact of a short sale or foreclosure. What we've seen a lot of people coming up with as a solution in our market is converting them to a rental. So especially if they got into these properties 2 and 3, 4 years ago, they very well may actually cash flow, be able to secure professional property management, which we do, and kind of gain some equity, and hopefully see some additional appreciation where they can actually get a check at closing instead of write a check at closing. So that's kind of where we are. With the holidays, I think we always see an influx in my market. At least I'd love to hear about your market, but around the holidays, because it's like if they're not getting the activity that they were anticipating, the sellers, then a lot of them choose to just hey, let's take it off the market for the holidays, because they may have a company and kids are home from school and stuff like that. So trying to revolve their entire lives around a very infrequent showing, sometimes they'll just pull it till the new year. So definitely seeing a lot of that. And I'm not going to make this, we'll do statistics next week, of course, not next week, but next episode. But I did want to just show this real quick. I kind of, and I know you're going to laugh at this, Heather, my average. This is my kind of average house, if you will, like 179 to 285 price point. And yeah, Heather, y'all, if you don't know, you'll be laughing next week when we talk about our average price point. But I was like, this is just kind of your average 3-bedroom, 2-bath, Harrison County. I always like, because there's more data. 179 to 285, so not super inexpensive, but not in the luxury market either. And the data is showing it, with the exception of November of 2024. Our pending sales have definitely been down the last couple of months. Surprisingly, even June, which tends to be a much higher month for us, in years past. So it's definitely been slower. The data is supporting what we're feeling, which is, inventory's low, pending sales are low. This is the number of closings, which you can see really we haven't had that few closings since January 2024. So, and again, this is kind of your average. This isn't all of the housing, but just kind of to give you a feel what's happening in that kind of middle market. We have, of course, if the house is super affordable, those are moving a little more. And honestly, if you're in the luxury market, those are moving pretty well. They don't tend to be as influenced by the little ups and downs of the economy once you get kind of into that luxury market. So definitely feeling what that article is referencing. So to sell or not to sell. Heather, tell me what you're seeing.
Yeah. Oh man. What's funny is our markets are actually fairly comparable right now in that regard. And first, to give everybody an idea, when she was saying that I was going to start laughing at their average price point, I just did the math while you were doing that. Your average price point for a house is our essentially
Down payment.
to a down payment that you are going to be putting on our average price point. Like, no joke. So there's that. But it's still very similar. So we are having a lot of people pull their listings right now for the same reason. If you are, this is usually our record low time as far as inventory goes, and usually a record low time as well as in regards to the amount of new listings that we have come on the market, for the exact reason of it's the holidays. Nobody wants to get up and move and like have stress on top of holiday stress when it comes to selling or buying a home. So a lot of people, our market, it's very consistent. After the second week of August, it just slowly goes down in buyer activity. And then once you hit about November 1st, give or take, is when everything just ceases. And so and the interesting thing is yeah, those who are still on the market, those who are still sitting for hundreds of days, which for us is insanely unusual to sit for that long. And if you're sitting for hundreds of days, it's because you're desperate. It's not because you like have the luxury of like, oh, we're just going to buy up, or we're just going to move, or we're just going to whatever. And I have recently had a listing where we had that exact conversation. It was like, hey, guys, you've been sitting for about a month and a half, which again, for us is a longer amount of time. And it's like, what do you guys want to do? Like, you guys purchased only a few years ago, and you have, yes, little pennies of equity increase, but really you don't have a hell of a lot to work with. Like, here's our options. Once we hit basically the end of November, you're not going to be getting anywhere. And so what makes the most sense? Do you want to continue to sit, or do you want to take off the market, go back on in the spring, and then hopefully we're going to have a much better buyer activity during that point, which historically we do. And it was kidding about a week later that we actually ended up getting multiple offers on the listing, which is great. And it was great for my sellers, but yeah, we just have this very normal lull during this time of year. And if you're able to do it, wait until the spring. It does make sense as a lister. Now, as a buyer, it makes sense to be active now if you can, because there's not as much on the market, and for people who are left or desperate, like, you can probably fandangle a little bit more, at least around here.
Mhm.
So yeah, this timing is always really interesting. But yes, people are pulling rather than sitting and hoping to negotiate for what everybody knows is going to be way less than ideal terms, for all those reasons. So yeah, it's very
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I think another thing to take into consideration and talk to your agent about is your like days on market. You know, if you're really getting very little activity, it's like, do you want to continue to rack up those days on the market? And from a psychological perspective, like, it's because I know in our area, you know, the days on the market will reset if it's withdrawn at least 30 days.
Yep.
So you know, used to, I remember when, I don't know how your MLS is, but you could pull it one day and put it back the next day and reset days on market, and you cannot do that. I think pretty much across the board now, because that's obviously not being completely transparent, right? I would say so. The other thing is, like, in addition to days on market, is just purely psychological. When we're in 2026 and they're seeing, oh, this was listed in 2025,
Mm-hmm.
it feels a little different, even though, you know, like, really, what's the difference between December 31st of 25 and January 1st of 26? But I think that there's definitely something to be said if you're not seeing that activity, maybe worth, you know, even if it's temporarily taken off the market. And like you and I have talked about so many times before, and I think this is the number one rule of what you should and shouldn't do, and the number one thing that I think people tend to overlook, is you need to do what's best for you and your situation and your current goals and your current, you know, I think us trying to have a crystal ball, you know, yes, might houses just pricing explode next year? Absolutely. Interest rates could drop. It could be the Wild West. Also, could something unexpected happen in the world and that doesn't happen? Absolutely. So I think really it's like, you know, just to have, I think that's why it's really important to have an agent that's very like, uh, I don't know how, what this word, like, that acts as a consultant and an advisor rather than a fortune teller.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. If they pretend that they have a crystal ball, your red flags might want to go off.
Oh yeah, interest rates are gonna be this. House prices are gonna be this. You know. That being said, I do want to reiterate one thing that you said, which was, if you're thinking about buying in the next couple of months, I think now is a really, really good time to be in the market. With the exception of if you have really special, unique needs, it never hurts to keep your eyes open, but inventory is lower, so you may not have as many options. But especially if you're just kind of looking for, you know, a home that's fairly commonly found on the market, I think now is a fantastic time to be looking and negotiating from the buyer side. So yeah, that's it for today. I'm excited. If you have any last words, certainly. If not, I'm super excited to go over our stats next time we're together.
Yay! I'm excited. It'll be fun to get back into those stats again, especially for any new viewers who aren't quite understanding of the different markets. Yes, and then we'll of course break for Christmas and all that good stuff, and then when we come back, I think that it will be fun when 2025 is over to look back at last year's predictions for 2025 and see how right or wrong we were. So we will see you guys then. I already know a few of them. I remember. Yeah, so until next time, we'll see you guys soon.